Hey there, hi, welcome to the channel. I am Garrett, and in this video, we're talking about how to decorate some of the most difficult spaces in your home. The first thing we're talking about is actually how to style a bookcase. You all ask this all of the time, and there isn't one specific rule, but I think you need to really think about what you're trying to say with that bookcase. Is it somewhere you're putting books, or is it somewhere you're displaying objects? There should always be a mix of the two, in my opinion, but I want to share with you this space that I think was done really well. This is actually a space I've shared with you before, and I think it's styled really nicely. Now, there is room to grow on these bookcases, and I think that's important because you want to have a little negative space. You don't have to fill everything up with a bunch of stuff just for the sake of it. This bookcase, what I specifically like about it is that there's not really a color scheme happening here. We aren't doing anything outrageous with these books, but some of them are turned on their side and they're definitely broken up so you don't have one full shelf of books and nothing else on the surrounding shelves. And styling your books with some of them on the side, some of them standing up, allows you to see all the covers, of course, but it also breaks up the lines of the space. They're just, stood up together like you would see at a library. What this does is it increases the visual horizontal lines the space has, but breaking them up, turning some of them on their sides like this, creates segmented bookcases. It creates the illusion that this isn't one piece, it's four of them next to each other. And that brings more vertical lines to the space, making them look a little bit taller, a little bit more elevated and slender, as opposed to adding more of those horizontal lines into the space. Actually, here's a great example of a moodier space. I really like the bookcase in this space as well, and the overall furnishings I think are great. I love these deep, rich tones. We have leather chairs, but they're two different styles mixed together, I think look great. The shelves here I particularly like because there's a strong mix of both books and accessories, accents, decor, collectibles, and that sort of thing. I like how these are styled up. And why I like that is because you have a handful of books that are stood up vertically as you would put a book on a bookcase, but a lot of them are laid on their sides and they're actually used to display an object. I think that's actually kind of fun. This bookshelf actually has a lot of negative space as well. You can see we've got some framed photographs in here, some of these little storage boxes that I think are great, and some trinkets alongside them. So this is a great way to display pieces in your home as well as books. You can see there are not a lot here, and you could certainly add more. I think would make the space look even better. But like I said, this is something that grows over time. So having some negative space here is definitely okay, but I love the use of accessories on this bookshelf. I lastly want to point out this bookshelf to you because I really like the color story that's happening. Now, I know a lot of people will either arrange books by color or turn them around so you only see the pages. And while I'm not personally a fan of that, I say, if that's your thing, that's your thing. This bookcase has like an encyclopedia of sorts. I don't know if it's an encyclopedia or law journals or what they are, but they're all black with gold lettering. And that seems to be a big theme when it comes to the covers of books. Look at what color the majority of your books have featured and pull that and use it towards your color scheme. This space is black. So we've got black and gold books. You can see we've got some black bookends. We've got some black sculpture and statues. We've also got a little bit of red incorporated into this bookcase, which I think is really fun in its styling. This space also has some funny stuff happening in my opinion. I like this magazine rack on the floor, but this table is styled with a globe on top and some vases underneath. I probably wouldn't have done that, but I think the bookcase is styled really nicely. I like the color story that's happening here, even though there's not a lot of books, there's more accessories and stuff, but you can always take a color scheme like that and bring it into your space and style up your bookcases with that. I know a lot of you have been asking for this video, and here it is. We definitely hear you out and see what you're saying in the comment section. So if you haven't already, please take a moment and join the LeChic family. Hit that subscribe button now and give this video a like. Let's talk about fireplaces, mantles, and styling them because you always want to know what I suggest. This is a space I really like because of the proportions of this mirror above the fireplace. Even though the mirror is a free-form shape, it has a small black frame on it, which I think is really beautiful, and that references to the actual firebox. So the insert here with the bricks, you can see it's dark, doesn't look like it's painted black to me. It looks like it's just like from soot, but that happens, and that's fine. The black reference is there, but really what the reference is actually the size of this mirror. You can see it almost lines up perfectly with the lines of this firebox. And I think that is something really great because it elongates the space, it elongates that fireplace, and it gives it a more classical proportion. Now you don't have to do that, but if you're hanging something above a fireplace, I recommend you look at the size of that firebox and pull the width of that for the actual piece above it. As far as the styling on this mantle, you have 2 vases with some flowers on it. It is nice when you have a classical proportion to have something asymmetric alongside it. And you could do this with a vase with some flowers, some dried florals like you see here. You can do this with sculpture or a candle, maybe some elegant candlesticks at 2 different heights is always nice because we like to style things in 3s. So one is the mirror and each of these vases is one of those things. So definitely be on the lookout for doing that in your home, but it's these proportions that are really working. Here's another space with those great proportions. This is actually a faux fireplace, but you can see this ornate mirror above actually has that same width. So it once again creates that really classic proportion. Now, in my opinion, this fireplace mantle is a little bit over styled. We have 1 too many pieces here, a lot of sculpture happening and some busts happening. I think that's nice. I would just take one of the pieces down, probably this, headless figure in the middle here. I'd probably lose that just because there's some good play and height of the other pieces, but the size of this mirror above is really, really working in favor of this fireplace. Now, here's an example of a large piece of artwork that extends further than that fireplace box. This is actually kind of the entire surround of this fireplace. We're pulling that size and bringing it up and dragging it up. Now, this is a leaning piece of art with an art light above, and I think that looks really beautiful. You could also do something a little more asymmetric and have this off to one side or layer 2 pieces of artwork together. That's something I personally have done in my home, and it's something I really enjoy. As you can literally see behind me, I have 2 pieces of art layered together, so I personally really like that. This looks beautiful. In a space like this that is very classic and very traditional, we have symmetry happening with the styling of the mantle. This is something interesting to do in a contemporary space, in a modern space. This is something that always says traditional when you use symmetry. And in a space like this that is traditional but has modern furnishings, it actually makes it feel very classic. And I think that is beautiful in this space. If you wanted to modernize it a little bit, you would do something asymmetric. You wouldn't have these kind of brass-like ornaments on either side of the fireplace plus this vase in the middle. You would maybe only have those brass ornaments on one side and the vase next to them, and then have the artwork slightly askew or off-centered. That would feel a little bit more modern than what's happening here. I think this looks great because you have modern furnishings with classic styling, which immediately makes it feel very timeless. Of course, all of the beautiful architecture in this space is not hurting that fact, but the styling can also really lead to what the overall feel of the home is, whether that's contemporary, modern, or very classic and traditional. Before we move on from fireplaces, there is a controversy we must address, and that is the television above a fireplace. I know not everyone likes this. Most of you are against it, and if you could see my fireplace, you would see that there's not a television above it, so I think that says my opinion on it. But some spaces need that. Some spaces will have it, and some people want that, and I think that's absolutely okay. The trick to achieving this and making it look good, sophisticated, the proportions looking correct, is this space right here. What they've done is they have taken the overall dimension of the fireplace surround, not the mantle, the inset surround. We have a black fireplace and a black fireplace surround. The television has those same proportions, and it elongates the space, but it makes a reference. We have this black fireplace, we have the black television. That is just a good play on color in a space, but it's really the size and that reference that makes it feel a little bit more natural and less out of place. Now, of course, this space would look even more beautiful with a tall, elegant mirror, or maybe even a portrait above the fireplace that references back to the size of the actual fireplace insert, but that's not what was done here. This is a good size for a TV in this living room. That reference feels natural instead of it being like a huge, massive television, at which point I would say no fireplace, just a TV on the wall. This works beautifully in this space. Shall we talk about how to style your coffee table? I think so. And this first space has a lot going on, and the coffee table styling here is very interesting, and I want to point out some things to you. There are stacks of things happening here, and this is not what I would recommend really on your coffee table, because if you're putting things out for your guests to see, it's hard to look at things that are stacked up, right? Like I have to kind of play a little game of like Tetris to move things around to get to the book underneath. So I like things to be spaced out a little bit more. On this coffee table, there's this beautiful bowl with a kind of a stand underneath it. I lose the stand, put the bowl on the table, and take one of the coffee table books, put it in front of that opened. I like that in a space because I think it invites people to look at that and turn the pages, and it actually starts a conversation. This coffee table, I just spread some of these things out because when you have stacks like this, it increases the height of everything, but it makes it harder to see all of it. Let's have a look at this living room here and this coffee table. I believe this is actually a model home because it doesn't have a lot of personal effects here, which is fine. And the styling here is interesting because we are using a basket, and corralling smaller items is always a good idea because it makes it feel like one larger piece. So you can see we've got a basket here with it looks like a little box and something sitting on it, and we've got these two large vases. The vases are referencing back to another color. This is a great trick to use in a space to create cohesivity. You want to use 3 different colors in 3 different ways, and one of those ways could be these vases. Having a basket on your table or a tray of some sort will help to bring in some of the smaller pieces together and make them feel larger. If you're going for a more traditional look, if you want a little bit of a heavier styling, that's a great trick. You can also use a large coffee table book and put different items on that book to make them corralled and feel larger and have them on display. Here is another space I want to share with you. I like the styling of these coffee tables because I think it's interesting. I have questions, and I think that's always something interesting or good to bring into a space. I'm looking at this, and there are tall candlesticks here. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of a really tall object on a coffee table because I think it kind of blocks your height. It creates a division or like a wall effect. So I wouldn't have put those there. But I'm seeing that there are like magnifying glasses on this table, and I'm wondering like, oh, what are they for? Do you collect them? Where are they from? It's interesting to me, and I think that's something you always want to have on a coffee table because it definitely sparks interest. I'm interested in this. I want to know what's happening here. I like the styling. I'm interested in the pieces. I like this tray here. We're corralling smaller objects. It's a blue and white tray, which you know I already love. We have a picture frame here, this glass egg, and a magnifying glass. And so corralling those always makes them feel like one larger piece, but you can still see they're individual and they create a little bit of interest. I like this. We've got some unique elements happening here. We've got this little display case or box that are holding items. That's always a really great idea. A wonderful tip for your coffee table styling is to get some sort of display box that you can hide your television remotes in, or you can hide like the little lighter for your candle in or whatever, but put some coasters on the top of it. That way, if someone is in your space and they have a drink and they want to turn the TV on, they have to physically touch those coasters in order to get to that remote, so they're more likely to use them, saving you from having like rings on your table, which we all can't stand. So that's just a quick little tip that I think will definitely improve your home and the styling of your space. Now, I've given you some styling tips that will always be timeless, but some trends don't last forever, so be sure you check out this video right here to learn all about some of the biggest ones that we thought would be around, but definitely are not. Be sure to check that video out right over here, and I will see you over there.